I will say the ability to actually push yourself physically to a point where you hit a wall that everyone else hits and it not be related to a low blood sugar is amazing to me.
We got a big beat on a ticket to ride. We gotta run fast if we wanna make it in time. We gotta swing to the beat and inside. We gotta ting to the sound of a bell. We got the boom breaking out the shell. We got the bling from the wishing well. We gotta we got the moves, check. We got the moves. Write it down, yeah. We got the moves, check. Hey. We got the moves. We wanna blast off on a rocket ship. We gotta walk.
Alright, these kept falling, so putting my hat back on. I'm getting so used to this combination. So race day strategy really starts 24 hours beforehand. And what was exciting is that joining the Beyond Type 1 team is that our teammates, we were chatting virtually for, 6 months, 8 months, however long it was, but the day before on Saturday, that was our first team brunch. That's where we all finally got to meet in person. And so at that brunch, I was kind of looking around of like, what food are they providing? So like that day I just had like really normal, I wasn't carbo loading or doing any of this sort of stuff. I was just having yogurt, having some coffee, but there they had these homemade granolas, which I actually have a quarter of, and I'll come back to this, but they had these homemade granola bars. And that's where I was like, this would be a perfect snack for actual race day. So I grabbed that and put it into a bag, and afterwards, people were asking me like, what did my Saturday look like? And chill, just chill out before the marathon. And so my strategy was just take it easy. So Blair and I grabbed a table and edited photos, caught up for 4 or 5 hours from legitimately 1 p.m. I'd say until 5 p.m. And at 4 o'clock, we ordered a huge cheese quesadilla, a bunch of appetizers, stuff like that. And I realized that that would be my dinner for the day. That at 4 o'clock, I would have a real high fat, high calorie, there's high carb as well, meal, but when I went to bed at 8 p.m., I would have no insulin on board, I wouldn't have carbs on board, I wouldn't have anything on board. So my overnight blood sugars were just absolutely stable, rock solid at 100 the entire night until I woke up at 4 a.m. Alrighty, it is bedtime here. A little sneak peek at some of the swag we got today. But my low carb, no carb breakfast looks like this with some veggie soup, coleslaw, eggs, cheese, and ready to rock and roll. 5 a.m. wake up. Now that assortment of food, that is why my teammates were making fun of me. Now in the past, I have usually gone into races with my blood sugar over 300. That's kind of typical where adrenaline and fuel and you don't quite know what to expect, and that is why you are trying to reduce as many variables as possible. That's why you want lower insulin on board. And so right around that 6 o'clock, I thought what was interesting is like I knew I was running at 10 a.m. And so if I ate around 6, whatever that is should be kind of completely digested before I started. And so that is where I ate avocado number 1, and eventually I had a hard-boiled egg, but I had a bag of 6 of them and it just didn't really sit well in my stomach. It didn't upset me, but I didn't want to eat more of them. But that is once again that high fat, high protein approach rather than fueling up on carbs. Alright, I think we got like the 2-hour check-in. Physically, I feel good. Emotionally, I took a poop. We got coffee here. And in blood sugar world, I'm like 160 and stable.
I'm 241 and dropping.
So luckily we have a lot of time to smooth everything out still. But that was kind of like our hours to hang out, and it was kind of cool to see how other teammates approach their blood sugar management and fueling for the day.
Hey there, how you doing? Yeah, so my belt, of course, has my bib. It's signed by Paula Radcliffe, you know. You don't know her? Google her. These are my GU Rockane gels, you know, for the endurance. This is the chocolate regular ones. these are salt tabs marked with a T. That's sugar, pure sugar marked with an S.
No way.
And these are my rehydration tabs, you know, because if you sweat, you need to reload on your potassium and sodium and stuff. So yeah, that's about it. And I have a few gels packed up inside, like right here, just in case if you need it, ask for it. See you.
Now, you most likely know that I have been looping to manage my blood sugar. Up here, you'll see a video where I talk about it a ton. But what's really cool is that there are now workout profiles that you can pre-program for a specific time. Now, as a little snippet about insulin is that it kind of has a 2-hour lifespan. It really has a 6-hour, but 2-hour peak. And so I knew I was starting around 10:10. So at 8 o'clock, I made an adjustment to cut absolutely everything by 70% and set my target for 150. There's kind of two reasons for this. The reduction in overall basal rates, your carb ratios, your sensitivity, that huge profile reduction is because I know I'm going to be running hard in 2 hours, and that's going to be bringing your blood sugar down. It's going to be burning through your glucose, and so I wanted to get as much insulin out of my body. But then the reason I wanted to bring my blood sugar from 100 up to 150 is to give myself more fluctuation while I'm doing this huge endurance race. Alright, you know when your race is actually starting from your bib. You have a color, you have a wave over here, and then your corral. So wave 2, corral D, got called right around 9:50, and that is when you have to leave your bags behind. That's when you start leaving your clothes behind, you leave your teammates behind.
Please place items you wish to donate, especially
Nice. Good luck today. Good luck today. I'll see you guys out there. See you tonight, hopefully.
Each donation supports their mission of employment.
And it's also the last time to use a bathroom before you start running. Now, what was interesting is I came out of the bathroom and found a pace group.
Alright, this is Wave 2 Corral D. We've got our pace group back here. And emotionally feeling good. Blood sugar is 160 stable. Physically, we haven't started. Drinking some water and ready to rock and roll soon.
Now, as we were walking up to the Verrazano Bridge, that is when I had my second avocado.
Alright, this part of the video is dedicated to the team. This is proof that here, right before the race, I'm eating my other avocado. Stabilize that blood sugar with some high-fat, low-carb burn. But they're all making fun of me, so this is dedicated to you all. See you at the finish line.
But I wasn't eating that for the beginning of the race. What I was eating that for was that stable blood sugar, the stable release of calories over the next 2 to 4 hours. When you are managing your blood sugar, you have to be looking at the now, which is amazing to have the Dexcom continuous glucose monitor feeding those results every 5 minutes. That's where it's a blessing to have this technology to make these decisions. But the thing is that you also have to be planning for the future with your blood sugar. And so that is why I knew before the race I wanted to go as high fat as possible and then switch over to... Shockingly, I couldn't find my water bottle here in my room. And I wanted to bring this up because I just ran with a water bottle. It could have been this Gatorade bottle for all I care. I should have a squirt nozzle. But I was surprised how few people actually ran with a water bottle of sorts. I did this for two reasons. Usually for blood sugar management, I'm talking about now switching over to a higher carb, easier to digest. And so a lot of times I will mix something like half Gatorade with half water. And going into it, my hydration strategy was drink slow sips out of my water bottle as I run. And then when we stopped through all of the water stations, which I would say, I don't know how many there were, but it felt like every mile they were there. There was a lot of them. I would grab a cup of Gatorade twice. So that means Gatorade the first one, Gatorade the second one, and then the third one I would grab water. And then if you have followed the channel long enough, you know on my hikes and my endurance races, a lot of times I set an hour timer to check in with myself. And so For this marathon, I had a goal of every 45 minutes or less to eat a segment of this granola bar, this homemade granola bar. And the only reason this made it to the marathon is because I didn't find it in my belt. I ate every other part and then this just happened to make it. And I was like, oh, it'd be cool to save it just to show you all what I was eating. Now, I got this from the team brunch, but why I chose the homemade granola bar is that it had a base of banana, it probably had a ton of seeds in it and tons of berries in it, and so it's that high carb, but then also slow release fuel source. This gets into your calorie release without spiking your blood sugar. This is key. So every 30 minutes, I would take a quarter of it. I would look at my blood sugar, see what's going on, and then take about a quarter of it and throw it into my mouth. Now, the other amazing part of the marathon is the fans. Just to cheer you on emotionally, but what's cool is that they are handing out bananas, they're handing out orange slices, and they are handing out candy, all of which I took advantage of.
Blood sugar's like 150 and pretty stable, so I've been eating this banana that someone gave me. Alright, time to catch up with the pace group.
I had about a banana and a half while running, and what's different about using Loop to manage your blood sugar is this is the first system I ever feel honest with. If you talk to someone who's managing type 1 on a lot of the insulin pumps nowadays, you know that there is a huge fudge factor. That means we have to kind of falsely lie to our pump therapy to get kind of the insulin results that you want. Now, when I dropped everything by 80%, that means my carb ratios also get dropped. So while I was running, actually through Williamsburg, I entered 25 carbs into my iPhone, yes, while running, and it popped up, and instead of typically, say, getting 2.5 units for that banana, it was like, do you want to take 0.7 units? So that big reduction, but then from there, I actually went in and said, give me 0.4 units, and this is diving deeper into it, but what Loop will do is know I didn't have that 0.3 units that it was recommending, and so it would use basal adjustments to do that. Now, the reason I didn't enter the full thing is that if my blood sugar stayed high, Loop would have increased my basal rates to bring it back down. But if I gave that full 0.7 and my body really just absorbed it, I would start crashing, and Loop wouldn't be able to pull back that insulin. So with 0.4 units, it has another kind of 40% to wiggle with. And I know like I was up near 200, but then I started evening out and coming down. So I think that's a really good decision. And it's just really amazing to know that that's the insight that we're gonna have going forward. And if I was running with an Apple Watch, I was running with the Withings watch, I actually would have been able to do all that from my iPhone. So that's just like amazing technology that's available now, but then also is hopefully going to get integrated into the pumps in the future. So that's just like a really cool thing to see. What else did I eat? The Snickers bar. Right around mile 16, that is when a fan gave me a Snickers bar. I ate it because it's high carb, high fat, but that was also just like a huge emotional win, so I just wanted to bring that up. Until the wall. Now, I didn't know when the wall was gonna come. You hear about it. I didn't really know what it was gonna feel like, but if you look at my splits, the wall came exactly at mile 21, specifically right before you turn onto 5th Ave going into Central Park. And what it felt like is my quads getting ripped in half. Now, this was surprising to me because I was like, my quads are my strongest part of my body from cycling. And that is when the pace group was pushing me mentally and physically, but that is when I hit this moment I was like, oh my gosh. But the thing is, being an athlete with type 1 diabetes, you start playing this emotional game, physical or whatever, I'm like, oh man, my blood sugar might be really low right now. And what was amazing is pulling up my phone, checking my blood sugar, and realizing that it wasn't, that it was perfectly stable at 120. So still 20 points of where normal is and 40 points of where I might start getting concerned about being low. And that was a huge win as an endurance athlete. I will say the ability to actually push yourself physically to a point where you hit a wall that everyone else hits and it not be related to a low blood sugar is amazing to me. It means like I get to experience the full marathon the way that others do, and know that my blood sugar wasn't something that got in the way of that. And that's like the approach of us feeling like normal people doing this absolutely insane thing. And I had this fueling strategy to thank for it, but really like Loop and CGM and all this technology, and like getting emotional over here. Yeah, what I did for fueling wise was have a goo, and I just had 2 goos on me, and it helped, but yeah, at that point things were just like super hard. Doesn't get cooler than this. Post-race, what happened post-race? Post-race, don't sit down, don't stop moving. In terms of blood sugar management world, that's when my blood sugar started going high. I ate a pack of pretzels, and that was brutal. My mouth was so dry at that point. Water. Eventually I had chocolate milk, great for recovery, and then that night I had udon soup, just something really brothy, some carbs in there. But I passed out in my bedroom at 8 o'clock with the lights on. And once again, that is where having automated basal adjustments through Loop, but that's gonna be starting to be even better with Medtronic system, with Tandem system in the future, with any new pump company coming into with Omnipod and their dash system. To have automation where I passed out, obviously I was doing blood sugar controls, I passed out and my blood sugar, you know, is 250, 230, something's higher, but then slowly overnight it worked out and I woke up at 140. I didn't have any major lows, I didn't stay super high anymore, and that is where automation is something that we need to get into the hands of every type 1 diabetic around the world. It's impossible to try to figure out how running 26.2 miles is going to impact your blood sugar as you pass out and try to recover from there. That's what is incredible, is that we are able to now communicate this to the community, communicate what we did successfully, and thanks to Beyond Type 1, their volunteers, to the New York City marathoners. But the fact that we're able to grow our team and say, look, this is how 30 people approached it, but there's also JDRF runners, I'm sure there's other diabetes organizations that was out for marathon, and to say, look, you can do it, and no matter what, figure out plan A, figure out plan B, figure out plan C, but just know that you can do a marathon and inspire yourself, and start with the half marathon, start with a 5K, start with just walking around the block, but know that diabetes is not the excuse, is that you can figure it out, and it'll be tough. A lot of our teammates had some sort of diabetes hurdle and obstacle to overcome and finished. And that is what we need to remember with this disease that is so brutal day in, day out, is that it is possible. We need to learn from each other. And thank you to everyone, every fan that was out there, every sponsor, every brand, every person that made the day possible. And I hope you all took away something from my fueling strategy, how I approached the day. And just remember, you can go anywhere and do anything.